Great. Thanks everyone for your patience while we just ironed out a few technical things. Welcome to the Enterprise Cloud 2025 update. My name is Franz Esser. I'm the Strategic Business Manager here at ET Works, and I'll hand over to my colleagues to introduce themselves.
Yes, so hi everybody, my name is Lior, I'm from the Netherlands. I'm a systems engineer at Nutanix for now 2 years already, and I'm joining this webinar to explain to you the enterprise clouds updates that we have.
Yeah, hi everyone, I'm Jon Moore. I'm Technical Account Manager at ET Works. In terms of the webinar this morning, please feel free to drop any questions into the chat as we move along. If I can, I'll try and prompt the speakers to bring that into the conversation if it's relevant at that point. If not, we'll stop recording at around about 40-45 minutes and take the questions directly. So don't worry about don't worry if you feel like your question is stupid or anything else. There's no silly here. And we're not expecting a fire drill. So if you do hear a fire alarm, please leave the webinar. So I'll hand straight over to Franz, and we'll get moving.
Thanks, Jon. Yeah, the only thing silly here is Jon, and you'll find that out as we get through the presentation. Right, so just a quick introduction to ET Works for those of you who might not know us. We've got a lot of registrations from all across the world today joining us, but ET Works has been around about 30 years now, delivering global IT solutions to our customers. We're a strategic Nutanix partner. We're a top 5 Nutanix partner and have been in that sort of league since 2014 when we first signed up to work with Nutanix. We've also got very strong alignments with the likes of Haiku. You'll hear a bit more about that in a minute. Rubrik from a data protection perspective, and also with AWS and Azure. And I'll come back to how we integrate Nutanix solutions into the cloud a bit later. We have over 50 customers. When I speak, that's outside of the shall we say, the traditional ET Works customers that have come with us over the 30 years. In the last 10 years, we've built up a new customer base around enterprise cloud technologies of about 50 customers across 35 countries, ranging all the way from North America across to Asia Pacific, but centered around the EMEA region predominantly. We do believe in giving our customers choice. That's really important. Even though we are talking about Nutanix today, you'll find out that you have the choice to run Nutanix on-premise, in the cloud, as a hybrid of the two, with the hypervisor of your choice, with the hardware of your choice. And that's key to how we support our customer journeys. What you'll also know about ET Works, well, get to know about us if you don't know us yet, is that we're a very technically led business. So Jon and myself both come, even though we're in an inverted commas sales position today / account management, we actually come both from a technical IT operations or even software development background. And that's something we kind of pride ourselves on as a business, that we are very much a technically led organization, and we're here to help fix customer problems and engineer our way out of those problems. And then from a services perspective, the reason I mention the fact that ET Works delivers infrastructure services, infrastructure as a service, disaster recovery and backup as a service, is because we actually consume the very technologies that we're going to be speaking about today to deliver those services. So we practice what we preach. We really believe in the technologies that we work with, and we hope that gives you some confidence too in terms of taking those on board. Just to talk briefly about what we cover is what we define as hybrid cloud infrastructure solutions and services. Now, there is a part of the ET Works business that isn't covered on this particular slide, or to do with HPC and enterprise tape technologies and traditional hardware infrastructure solutions. But today we're going to focus specifically on what we've been building out for the last 10 years, which is the sort of hybrid cloud solutions portfolio, which is centered on Nutanix around that sort of private cloud capabilities. As you can see, we're a Nutanix champion partner reseller. We've worked with all the major hardware providers to deliver Nutanix solutions on premise. And we've also delivered Nutanix solutions. In fact, we are the first UK partner to deliver a replatforming of a customer environment into a Nutanix NC2 in both Azure and AWS. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute to build out a true sort of hybrid cloud environment between the private cloud and the public cloud. We also offer end-user computing solutions running on Nutanix. So we've delivered solutions with all the major cloud brokers that you can see listed over there for our customer base for VDI. And then from a data protection and archive perspective, we'll be talking today around how we can protect your Nutanix solution. There'll be a specific shout out to Haiku and their engineering efforts with Nutanix to provide that. We'll also touch on AI solutions, again, alignments between Nutanix, NVIDIA, and Hugging Face to deliver an AI solution that we will go into a bit more detail later. And then lastly, the networking and security component to glue all of that together. Don't have any time to really cover that in any detail, but if you have questions about that, then please let us know, and we can of course take that up with you afterwards. Moving on from there, looking at ET Works services. So just going around the wheel of services quickly, from an infrastructure and cloud perspective, I've already mentioned that on the previous slide. Data and AI will cover in more detail a bit later, but the idea is to give you the same benefits you have from the simplicity and management perspective that you perhaps know or will come to know about, offered by Nutanix for an on-prem or cloud-based solution. From an infrastructure perspective, Nutanix now also offers that straight out of the box capability to deliver a fully fledged AI solution that you can have up and running in a matter of days. From a modern workplace perspective, everything from in-tuned desktop management and desktop support, all the way across to end-user computing solutions with VDI, ET Works offers all of those. We have a very competent professional services team led by Jordan Buckingham, our technical director, who's got more than 10 years experience, and we've deployed hundreds and hundreds of Nutanix nodes across the globe. We also have expertise in everything ranging from Microsoft SQL Server through all the Microsoft and Linux operating systems, and even software development capabilities if you need those. So a very broad range of services, cloud integration services into Azure and AWS. From a managed services perspective, we offer a variety of services, all the way from infrastructure as a service right through to managed infrastructure services, where we look after a number of global companies as Nutanix infrastructure in their data centers. We fully monitor, manage, maintain, and support that for them. And then lastly, on cybersecurity, we'll be touching on some of the services today, but driven predominantly by our backup and disaster recovery services, also managed SOC and other services. So please, if there's something that is of interest to you and we don't cover it today, by all means, let us know, and we'd happily take that offline with you afterwards. So with that, we're going to dive straight into the Enterprise Cloud 2025 headline announcements. And really to start with, I think it's important for us to say what is the Nutanix, or define what the Nutanix Enterprise Cloud is. If I can put it really simply, it's a single software fabric that's deployed across both private and public cloud environments. Can be deployed on edge and IoT too, whether that's a drone or a small robo cluster sitting at the edge of the network. But the point is that it's a single software fabric that provides you with an ease of management, the ability to flexibly deploy workloads across all of those environments. It's a highly scalable infrastructure, can scale from just one node and up to hundreds of nodes in a cluster. We can offer high resilience, or it's by nature highly resilient in terms of N+1 or N+2 resilience. And that applies to anything that you run on Nutanix, whether that's databases, file workloads, objects, virtual machines, and even containers. So the idea is you have one experience, whether you're deploying a virtual machine or a container. From a management perspective, it's a single experience, it's a single platform. It's one experience from a management, governance, and security perspective. So whether you're running on-premise, you're running in the cloud, you're running at the edge, you've got a common set of security policies, a common set of management interfaces, governance tools, all of that offered through the Nutanix Enterprise Cloud. And then one experience in terms of how you consume on-prem, in the cloud, and at the edge, and giving you that portability to move workloads between those different environments. So with that, I want to hand over to the lovely Lior to take us through the next 2025 headlines.
Yes. So for those who don't know it, .next, that's what our yearly event is called at Nutanix. Last May, it was in Washington. And during this event, for partners and customers, our newest innovations are mentioned. So here is an overview of the announcements that we had at our yearly .next event. And we've divided it in 3 pillars. So first one is the Nutanix with external storage. We have a partnership that was announced with Pure Storage as one of the external storage. And second is the cloud native AOS. I will talk in a minute about what that is. And the third one is AI, because AI is developing very, very fast. And next to our enterprise AI tool, we now also have agentic AI. So later in this presentation, we will dive into what those announcements are.
Thank you. So looking at the major, new partnership announcements and major developments. Firstly, for those who are not familiar, Nutanix AHV Hypervisor is an enterprise-grade hypervisor. It offers feature parity with the top SKU of the VMware vSphere ecosystem, and it has today been adopted by over 20,000 customers globally. So those are customers who have moved away from VMware or Hyper-V or other hypervisors and adopted Nutanix AHV. And it's the hypervisor of choice for Nutanix when it comes to deploying in the hybrid multi-cloud world. So with that leading into the Nutanix cloud clusters, and we'll explain a bit more about that, but NC2 is effectively the ability to deploy Nutanix software in AWS and Azure. Now, those capabilities have been around for a few years, AWS since 2020, Azure since 2022, and as mentioned, ET Works have already moved major UK customers into AWS and Azure with Nutanix. But now we're pleased to announce that as of the end of this year, Nutanix NC2 will be available in Google Cloud as well. And then talking about the external storage, we're pleased to say that Dell PowerFlex is available as external storage to Nutanix, as is Pure Storage now as of later this year. So what that basically means is that you can use those SAM-based technologies to provide the storage tier, and then you can still use Nutanix AHV hypervisor and Nutanix management capabilities on the compute tier, and you can bring that together into a solution that allows you to leverage existing storage investments. So you don't have to make a big forklift upgrade of existing hardware investments, and you can already get all the benefits of Nutanix today. We'll say some more about the Nutanix VDI ecosystem, but some very exciting announcements about Omnissa and AHV integration coming this year. Speaking about infrastructure as code, there was a big drive at the Nutanix .next conference in Washington this May, where a lot of developers were present trying to understand how they can leverage Nutanix APIs. So building out your config files in code to automate and provision everything via API, whether that's on premises or in the cloud, is key to the Nutanix story. So there's three key pillars there. The first is Foundation Central. Now that's the ability to do a centralized zero-touch deployment of clusters globally, and that would typically apply to robo sites or even data centers that you want to deploy. You just need someone to plug the node into the network with a cable, and from there on, Nutanix Foundation Central can pick that up and configure and deploy the cluster. Prism Central is Nutanix's management overlay, so that would be to manage either on-prem or cloud-based or robo or edge clusters, and it allows you to have a central set of policies to cover both applications, virtual machines, containers, covering everything from your security posture through to compliance. It allows you to deliver policy-based low-code and no-code automation through playbooks, again across all of those different kinds of environments and workloads. There's also been some major developments with the Nutanix Cloud Manager NCM self-service capability. So you now have full role-based access controls. You've got a multi-tenant capability, so you can either have different organizational units, or if you're an MSP, different customers or different projects within a business, all given self-service capabilities to have full control over an environment within a ring-fenced network perimeter and allocated resource quotas. So putting power back into the hands of your users and offloading those burdens and responsibilities from IT teams. Nutanix Enterprise AI, Lior's going to go into this in a bit more detail, so I don't want to steal too much of her thunder, but just to say that at a high level, conceptually, what Nutanix Enterprise AI or NAI is offering is the ability to run on any CNCF Kubernetes platform, so on-prem bare metal, in the cloud directly, supported today in Amazon, or on-premise on your Nutanix cluster. You can pick any large language model, whether that's from NVIDIA or Hugging Face, and then you can provide security and governance around that. So the concept behind NAI is to give you simplicity. So the same out-of-the-box ability to have a Nutanix cluster up and running within a matter of hours from someone walking into a data center with a box and some cables. We can do the same now for an enterprise AI solution, and to give you the simplicity of the Prism management interface to manage that AI solution and have full control over it. So whether that's who has access to those models, what data those models can ingest, typically that would be inside the security perimeter of your data center, and you would be directing the NAI solution to only ingest data from your private secure data, the way you manage those endpoints and the AI models. So if you have a particular LLM where perhaps there's an issue or a vulnerability that's been exposed with a particular model, you will know exactly how that's being used in your business. You can immediately lock it down and you have an audit trail around that. And then from a cost perspective, the ability, we all know that AI solutions can be very complex. They can take months to years to roll out, and they can cost millions of dollars to get going. With Nutanix NAI, we can reduce that time to market to just a few days, and you have a full enterprise AI solution ready for just a few $100,000. You can be up and running and serving that into your business. And quick shout out to our friends at Haiku. Some really amazing announcements coming out there. Haiku is a data protection solution that has been co-engineered with Nutanix to protect all apps and services, the emphasis being on all. So whether that's on-premise, and whether it's cloud native services or even SaaS services, Haiku protects them all, giving you total visibility. So the ability to discover how SaaS applications are being used in your business, creating a map of everything that's going on and who's using it. Application level discovery as well, how applications have been deployed in your business, and then putting a SLA-based wrapper around that to protect them. So from a backup and recovery perspective, and also from a compliance perspective, to make sure that you're meeting your RPOs and RTOs in the business, Haiku actually gives you real-time feedback on whether you're compliant to your RTO and can meet your recovery objectives. The ability to recover individual granular file level or table level in a database, or to do a full disaster recovery of your environment into another site, and even to do disaster recovery between clouds. So for example, backing up workloads in Amazon Web Services and recovering them into Azure, or taking from Amazon, recovering on-prem, or from on-prem into the cloud. All of those pathways are possible with Haiku. So it's a really powerful and capable solution that we'd welcome the opportunity to discuss with you if that's of interest. And with that, I'm going to hand back over to Lior.
Yes, thank you, Franz. So next I will talk about some of the updates that we announced during that next. I want to start with Nutanix Unified Storage. So for those who don't know it, the Nutanix Unified Storage is a software-defined storage layer that can sit on top of your hardware. This can be Nutanix hardware, but we also are compatible with HP, Lenovo, or Dell. And like Franz mentioned before, we have Nutanix Cloud clusters, and this means that you can deploy the Nutanix software on any cloud. So for this, we also have the unified storage. And what's new is that the files stored in the Nutanix Unified Storage, it can be backed up or replicated to object storage, to S3 compatible storage. So this keeps your data safe and offsite and data and ready for a disaster recovery or long-term storage. And it retains the cold data in the cloud. So it's more efficient eventually. Next, I want to talk about Data Lens. So Data Lens is an add-on that we have for the Nutanix Unified Storage. And what it is, it's actually a very smart data security tool that gives you more visibility into your files, for objects, and for volumes. So it tracks the file's activity. It can detect the threats like ransomware in real time, and it automatically responds on it to protect your data even more. So let's see how this works. You can integrate Data Lens, by the way, also with other tools. So what it does, it monitors your file activity. Like we see, we have the unified storage layer, and on top of that, we have Data Lens that receives the file's activity. For example, who is accessing your files, who is changing them, and who is deleting them, all in real time. Once a threat is detected, it detects threats by comparing the activity patterns against the known ransomware or suspicious behavior profiles. And it can block the threats immediately. So it can isolate the users that are affected, or the file types or the shares. Then it can also recover the data automatically by using the snapshots and recovery plans that you set and configure in advance. And it can also send alerts to any of the security integrations that you might have. So basically, what is normally a manual process to audit your data and your files can now be automated and secured for you, all through Nutanix Data Lens.
Would it be more open questions to get that thought in the process going and ask you?
So next, I want to talk about cluster resiliency. In Nutanix, we have terms like fault tolerance. We have fault tolerance 1 and fault tolerance 2, and that refer to how many nodes you can allow yourself to lose. So in a 3-node scenario, we have a replication factor 2, and that means that there's 2 replicas of your data copied in the cluster. So 1 original and 1 copy in a 3-node scenario. Then we have also a scenario where you have 5 nodes, and there we can configure a fault tolerance of 2. That means that even if you have 2 node failures, your cluster is still able to continue with no errors, because the replication factor is copied 3 times in the cluster, 1 original and 2 data copies. So in the 3-node cluster scenario, you can allow yourself to lose 1 node or 1 drive. And in the 5-node cluster scenario, you can allow yourself to use 2 nodes or 2 drives. So fault tolerance 2. Now, what's new in Nutanix is that you can now, in a 3-node cluster scenario, you can lose 1 node and 1 drive at the time, and also 1 node or 2 drive. That means that we added the drive into the cluster resiliency, and it can still keep running. So what would be before, for example, the 2 drive error scenario, we can now also with 3 nodes be able to catch it. So why did we do this? So as disks capacities, they are growing, and disk failures now represent even a bigger risk than node failures. We can now protect against 2 simultaneous failures of 2 disks at the same time. So you minimize the cost, because RF3 having 5 nodes can be expensive. And now with a 3-node cluster scenario, you can still be able to protect your loss. So next, I want to talk about the multi-cloud snapshot technology. We have a zero compute multi-cloud snapshot technology, and this enables disaster recovery by backing up directly to your object or S3 compatible storage without needing any compute resources on the DR side. So this maximizes the storage efficiency, because you use the object storage for the cold data, and this is eventually more cost effective. And with the unified control, it can all be controlled through Prism, so you would all manage it on one interface. This can be with a Nutanix on-prem site and an object storage, or the Nutanix Cloud clusters. So the next announcement is the Cloud Native AOS. The Nutanix Cloud Native AOS, it's a version of the Nutanix software designed specifically to run on the managed cloud native applications like containers and Kubernetes. So it integrates the Nutanix core platform with the Kubernetes tools, and this helps developers to deploy and manage their containerized applications more easily. So what you get is you get an enterprise-grade storage, networking, and security for your cloud-native workloads. And like this, you can run traditional virtual machines and modern applications side by side on the Nutanix on the same platform. Now, some of the benefits of this cloud native AOS is that it extends the Nutanix storage to Kubernetes and bare metal. So you can use the Nutanix storage not only on Nutanix nodes, but also in the public cloud Kubernetes services and the physical servers. And there is no hypervisor required for this. So you can run the containers and the applications without needing any hypervisor. And this eventually reduces overhead and complexities. And it simplifies the day-to operations for the Kubernetes applications because it makes the managing, the updating, the scaling of the Kubernetes workloads much easier after the deployment. Also, it keeps your cloud-native apps safe with the built-in backup and replication features.
Thank you, Lior. So back to some NC2 key updates. Might be worth looking at that diagram at the bottom. Hopefully it's clear enough so I can just explain for a minute what NC2 actually does and offers you. So it's the ability to run Nutanix software in the public cloud on native cloud services. So what I mean by that is, let's use AWS as an example. You can run it on EC2 compute services. It's what's called the bare metal node offering, and there's various different kinds of bare metal node instances. And we deploy Nutanix in that public cloud scenario in the same way that you would with an on-prem environment. You have a minimum of 3 bare metal nodes or more, and you can scale those up into the dozens as needed. The idea then is you get all the operational simplicity and the benefits of Nutanix, but you also get the ability to cut out cloud and micro waste. So to use a simple example, if you have an on-premise virtual machine that needs, let's say 2 vCPUs and 8 gigs of RAM, if you were to move that into a public cloud provider, you might find that the closest t-shirt size that they have is 2 vCPUs and 10 gigs of RAM as an example. So you'll be paying for an extra 2 gigs of RAM that you will not be required, that you won't actually need or use. So that doesn't sound like much, but if you add that up over hundreds of virtual machines, suddenly that becomes a 20-30% overhead. In the same way with storage in the public cloud, if you've got a terabyte's worth of data and you take a snapshot of that, it's another terabyte you're paying for, and you take a clone, it's another terabyte. With Nutanix running in NC2 in the cloud, you've got all the dedupe and compression technologies of Nutanix, and importantly, you've got the zero space snapshot and clone technology that you can also benefit from. So putting all of that together, we find that we can save anything between 20 and 50% of your public cloud costs by consolidating into Nutanix NC2 in the cloud. The other benefit of it is that because we're running on native cloud services and native cloud networking stacks, we're also running right adjacent to all of the other cloud native services that you might want to consume, whether that's machine learning or AI services or anything like that that's available through the public cloud providers. You're running side by side on the same networking stack, which means you can easily integrate that environment with your NC2 environment. So the big announcement at this year's .next is that now NC2 is available for public preview on Google Cloud and will be fully GA by the end of 2025. You now have the ability to take workloads running in AWS, right-click, move them into Azure, right-click, move them into Google, right-click, move them on-prem, and right-click, move them all the way back again. So that's really the beauty of what the Nutanix Enterprise Cloud Fabric offers you when it comes to how you consume hybrid cloud. Another recent or new announcement was the support for the MST that Lior just covered. That's now available in Azure Blob Storage, previously only available in AWS, now also available in Azure. And also in Azure is available, we have Elastic SAN. So what that allows is a scenario where perhaps you have a disaster recovery cluster running in Azure with a relatively small compute requirement, maybe just 3 nodes to act as a form of a pilot light. But then you can offload if you have a large amount of storage sitting behind that you need to replicate from on-prem into Azure, but you want that to be hot storage to be instantly available. We can offload that into the Elastic SAN element on Azure so that if you were to invoke disaster recovery, you've immediately got all of your data accessible over there, and you can bring that online and your virtual machines online straight away, and then you can scale out that Azure cluster from a compute perspective. So it's just a way of optimizing your cost footprint in Azure when using NC2. Some more other announcements with AWS. You now get separate VPC gateways. More VLANs have been available. That's just responding to customer demand and requests. And similarly, we've got a number of new regions now coming online for AWS in Mexico, Thailand, Taiwan, New Zealand, and Canada. And with that, I'm going to hand over to the very lovely and competent Jon Moore to take you through the next section.
Very lovely. You've never called me lovely before, Franz.
You're a lovely guy, Jon, and you're very smart too.
Sorry, I'm just trying to move on the slide.
Lior, you might need to give the...
Yes, I did give it.
There we go.
Yeah, I got this.
So yeah, on to Nutanix Enterprise AI. So Nutanix AI, or NAI for short. You'll also hear references to GPT in a box. GPT in a box and GPT in a box 2.0. We're kind of talking about the same solution, just to clarify that. What is it? Well, we're taking some of the core Nutanix stack. So if we take the Nutanix cloud infrastructure as a base, so that's giving us, secure, resilient, cloud-like experience. We already have a proven track record with that. But that also provides us with a sort of fast, resilient storage layer that's important to that AI infrastructure. We add to that base layer Nutanix Kubernetes Platform, or NKP for short. That gives us a container management and deployment layer that's wrapped and simplified with a kind of solid management wrapper, but still gives the flexibility for us to deploy on Nutanix in the public cloud or even bare metal nodes with a kind of consistent management experience. Sorry, you'll have to excuse my slowness in building the slides. Underpinning your kind of building your AI apps, we have NVIDIA NIM, which is NVIDIA's inference microservices. That's kind of a set of pre-built, optimized inference tools and microservices. And then NVIDIA AI Enterprise, which is a complete solution around AI lifecycle from development to production using kind of pre-built frameworks. And that includes the ability to use LLMs in the NVIDIA catalog, but also gives things like role-based access control and day two operations. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. This also allows us to bring in Hugging Face. You'll be aware in terms of LLMs that Hugging Face have a whole bunch of open source LLMs, and there's a whole pre-validated set for Nutanix NAI. And you can literally import those in. I'll show you in a minute just how simple that is. This then builds an entire stack that is deployable, but managed in quite a familiar place for sysadmins. It allows us to centralize the management and compliance. But more importantly, this gives us a kind of single vendor solution to what is quite a complex enterprise-wide problem. So in short, GPT in a box or NAI gives us a full stack AI solution that can be up and running in days, unified single vendor support. And some of the key elements, if you look at the diagram on the right, kind of some of the key elements to this are a kind of admin friendly user interface. And I mean, if you think about the layers that we have in the stack, it's a lot to manage. You have a complete choice of LLMs that are either pre-validated or can be customized by yourself to upload. There's a whole bunch of API token management that comes really important as you start rolling this out for multiple apps. Full role-based access control and security, which as you build this out to multiple tool sets, you're going to need to restrict who has access to what LLMs, who has access to what models, and what solutions, as well as where that data is being accessed from. A whole bunch of testing and monitoring tools, and then kind of one of the key points is kind of the operational tools. So we can monitor things like usage and resources, auditing, all part of that solution. And of course, a really important one, that integration into Nutanix Pulse, so that you have a consistent support experience across your enterprise. just wanted to show you a kind of what operations looks like. This is kind of a day two operations type interface. Those of you, I know we're about 50-50 who on the call who are Nutanix customers and who haven't used Nutanix before. But for the Nutanix customers, this will feel like a very comfortable dashboard, looking very similar to some of the other dashboards Nutanix have, giving a really good overview of what's happening in terms of resource and auditing, the ability to track anomalies, and of course drill down into the detail that you can see on the slide. And then again, wanted to show how easy that was in terms of LLM import. Of course, it's not easy. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that's going on, but actually, in terms of the reason we say we can get this up and running in days rather than weeks and months is the fact that when it comes to, for instance, the choice of LLM model, we can literally just import straight out of the NVIDIA catalog, straight over from Hugging Face Hub, or in fact, pre-build our own model and import that way. But look, that's enough about what ChatGPT in a box or Nutanix Enterprise AI is. I'm going to hand back over to Lior, who can tell us a bit more about what was actually announced at Next.
Yes, thank you, John, for the explanation of our NAI tool. So in .next, we actually made a very exciting announcement, and it's called Agentic AI. Agentic AI is the new kid on the block. What we know, how we know our current AI is that it's very reactive. You ask it something and it gives you answers. So if you send it a picture, it will analyze it and it will tell you what it sees on the picture. Now, agentic AI is the new proactive AI, and it's actually systems that work together, and you can autonomously plan and make decisions and act based on these decisions. So you can set and decompose goals and interact also with other tools. Now, how does this look like? Nutanix partnered up together with NVIDIA to make the agentic AI so successful. So we have now an even deeper integration. We support the NVIDIA NIMs, like John explained, which is used for inference microservices, deploy AI models and APIs on NVIDIA servers. And we support also the NeMo for LLM deployment and fine-tuning frameworks. So we have a shared model service methodology, and this allows application to reuse common AI model endpoints. And this is useful because it saves you a lot of resources. You don't need to duplicate heavy AI models for each application. So you need fewer resources like GPUs, CPUs, memory, and storage. And obviously, it comes with very simple management. So you only update and maintain one model service instead of many copies of it, which is also easier to scale. You scale only one single service instead of handling several requests and many individual models. And this also comes with faster deployments because the application can now quickly start using the existing shared model service without needing extra setup and configurations. So this can come as a separate application or as an NAI full stack. So with the NAI full stack, you will get the Nutanix Cloud Infrastructure and the Nutanix Kubernetes Platform. And on top of that, we have the Nutanix Enterprise AI that comes together with the storage of it, the unified storage and database services for supporting your vector databases for the AI data processing. So with the NAI full stack, you got everything you need and you're ready to go. Next, we want to talk about partnership updates. Over to you, John.
Yeah, so want to talk quickly about the kind of few partner announcements that were made at .next. Omnis Horizon, which formerly was part of VMware's end user compute division, which gives a complete virtualization of apps and desktops. So you can effectively run those services on pretty much any device from the Horizon client or a web browser. Omnis Horizon is now fully integrated into Nutanix AHV, which allows a kind of seamless hybrid multi-cloud through a single unified platform, as it did with VMware, but now on Nutanix. Because of the Nutanix piece, that also sets it free in terms of kind of hybrid multi-cloud. And in short, operations like networking, security, automation, management are now a single unified control plane. So you do that within Omnis, and that's applied into Nutanix AHV. High availability and performance, thanks to the ability for Nutanix to kind of web scale in terms of architecture. There's no extra hypervisor licensing required, or additional kind of infrastructure layers to make those solutions work. And of course, there are also the extra services like Data Lens to offer security and ransomware protection and intelligent analytics. I have got control. Look at this. I feel like everything's coming together. So like Omnis, Citrix has a fully integrated experience that extends upon they've had for some time a single click deployment onto AHV that includes support for the desktop app virtualization, but also extends that to NetScaler VPX across single or multi-cloud clusters. Native integration and compatibility allows for easy migration and backward compatibility to simplify those operations where you already have Citrix involved, or you have multiple estates where you need to be able to move cross-version. And the ability to extend Citrix deployments now from a kind of Nutanix hybrid multi-cloud environments and seamlessly extend and balance across the different cloud platforms. So using Nutanix cloud clusters, we can now run a Citrix environment that will seamlessly work on-prem in Nutanix cloud clusters in Azure, AWS, and GCP. And we can also do a couple of really nice features that are added in using the Nutanix layer. So things like cross-cluster master image sharing, and that's using native AHV snapshots. So take up very small amount of space, spin up very quickly. So that's going to improve resource utilization and reducing kind of duplication on management.
Then the next and the last announcements for today is the Nutanix and Canonical partnership. So Canonical, for those who don't know, it is the publisher of Ubuntu. And the announcement is that Ubuntu Pro can now integrate as a native operating system option with the Nutanix Kubernetes platform. So basically, the Nutanix lifecycle management tools streamline with the operating system updates and patches across the whole cluster. And it's also compatible with the Linux FIPS 140 compliance. And you get support both from Nutanix and Canonical. You have over 10 years of long-term support and over 25,000 open source packages, ensuring the long-term support of this. Those were the .next updates. I hope it was helpful. Thank you everybody for joining. As mentioned before, we will now stop the recording. So for those who have questions, we'll cover now the Q&A. So feel free, don't be shy, because this part will not be recorded.